Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News, where Warner Brothers is having a spectacular September that is not only ending oh so strong, but looks to continue into October as well, as two things have happened. One, this morning the first Blade Runner 2049 reviews broke, and they are stellar. Very savvy play by Warner Brothers publicity department. They have become very I'd say Rotten Tomatoes aware. And so you're seeing a strategy here where the people who, for the most part, have seen the movie were attending the junket. When you do the celebrity interviews and you have to see the movie to be able to do the interviews. And my suspicion is that they picked a very small group, not only the junket attendees, but also, like the trades to review the movie, to kind of set the tone for Rotten Tomatoes going forward. I'm seeing the movie on Monday morning, first thing, and my non-spoiler review will go up by end of day. Rumor has it they're going to make me sign a non-disclosure agreement. Everybody has to protect what they say are a copious amount of surprises in the film. I'm pretty excited about it. Let's see if they said we may or may not have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, but let's see. But I think that was very clever of them to kind of have like a control group of reviews that gets a really nice Rotten Tomatoes score and like buzzworthy quotes going into the weekend that'll kind of cement and take hold before you start to see a lot more reviews come out early next week. So interesting. But then also they had a fabulous headline that was generated by the box office, and that's that in less than a month, it has grossed $500 million, $500 million, but $500 million sounds better, but $500 million worldwide. And even better, that number is split down the middle in terms of domestic and foreign. So this isn't one of those films that was saved by the foreign box office. Everybody loves it across the globe. And it still has Germany, Italy, and Japan to go. Japan being, I think, the potential for the most money out of that trinity of countries that's left. Germany and Italy could contribute some nice numbers, but Japan could contribute a very nice number. And in many of the countries where it's already opened, it is the top-grossing horror film of all time, including Russia, which generated a hilarious story in this very quiet month, so it got a lot of traction. Also, it's just a fabulous story. But that the owners of Russian Burger King contended that Pennywise looked so much like Ronald McDonald that it was an unfair advantage to their competitor McDonald's, and so the movie shouldn't be released in Russia. Hilarious! It was released, as you can see. It's a huge hit. As I said, it's the highest grossing horror film of all time in the country. In the United States, it's just less than 20 million shy of having the same honor. It has to beat out The Sixth Sense. But considering the fact that it pulled in 29 million in its third weekend last weekend, it will probably surpass The Sixth Sense in about 2 or 3 weeks. So pretty exciting. Also, in all this coverage, it seems that Andy Muschietti and Bill Skarsgård are signed for the sequel. I would think that Skarsgård's deal would already be in place, and they must have quietly signed Muschietti's, but the coverage seemed to indicate that they both had done deals. And I also think it's interesting that the horror genre is so hot right now. It's becoming like the comic book genre, where it's getting very competitive in the release schedule. For instance, It Chapter 2, as we discussed, is set for September 6th, 2019, and right now there already was a Blumhouse original horror film planted on that date, and Warner Brothers was like, too bad, I'm taking it. It's a little bit of a, it's funny, Disney's done that to them. You might recall Batman v Superman had to move. I think that's hilarious, and so Warner Brothers is like, well, horror is our major vertical, so we're gonna go push other studios around. But interestingly enough, they did not go and push Disney. I don't think you can push Disney in any area right now. But Warner Brothers horror arm is building up really well. Disney, of course, as we've discussed, doesn't have a horror arm and probably never will because they can't. It doesn't fit with their brand. But Blumhouse says they aren't moving. They're like, I think that for Jason Blum, for a long time, he was the face of, the behind the scenes face, him and James Wan of the horror genre. And so I think that this has to hurt a little bit that he seems to be being pushed aside by Warner Brothers with an assist from James Wan, awkwardly. But he would be crazy not to move off that date. He would be absolutely nuts. There's no way anything can compete with It Chapter 2. As it is, Blumhouse already has October 18th reserved, a little over a month later. Take that date. Although anything near it, I think other horror films should give it a very wide berth. Although we'll see how Flatliners does this weekend. Let's see if someone can survive in the wake of it. Now, speaking of Monet, for the second story of the day, I want to talk about something the Hollywood Reporter did this morning, and that's a fascinating breakdown of the highest paid actor in Hollywood right now, Mark Wahlberg, who earned $90 million. I'll put a link down below to the breakdown, but I think it's important to take a look at, but we're going to discuss it in full here. And the takeaway I think that you should have is that he doesn't make his money just from acting. And I'm sure some of you are like, does Mark Wahlberg ever really act? But you know what I mean. His defining job is actor. But this is a great example of how celebrities truly build an empire these days to make money, which is spearheaded by their representation, their agent and their manager, and in this case also Mark Wahlberg's own production company. Some celebrities make money outside of the business. For instance, Courtney Cox and Jeremy Renner are both famous in Hollywood for flipping houses. They actually make most of their money doing that. And George Clooney makes most of his money off of his liquor brand. That's where he makes all of his money. It's crazy. That's how George Clooney built his fortune. That's why he and Randy Gerber are such good friends. They're not only friends, but they make a lot of money together. So anyway, Mark Wahlberg, for the most part, his portfolio is totally Hollywood-centric. So also, I want to point out to you that he doesn't take on $90 million personally. Always remember that when you're looking at star salaries. He has to give the percentages off the top to his team, his agent, his manager, his lawyer, his publicist, his stylist. Those people all take money. He also, I'm sure, has a team of assistants. They all have to get paid out of that $90 million. Then he has his production company that's going to take, he has to fund that. And then, of course, also he has to pay taxes. All right, so anyway, he makes from acting $15 to $17 million up front for a picture. That's a lot of money for Mark Wahlberg. I don't really see that reflected in his box office draw. So kudos to his management team for being able to negotiate such a fee for him. That's one of the main reasons that you also have a management team. But he also gets back-end deals. And for instance, for the last Transformers movie, he ended up walking away with $40 million. Pretty nice. I'm sure he loves that movie. Then for his AT&T commercials, which I think are excellent. I think he does an excellent job with those. I think that AT&T gets their money's worth with him. He never phones it in. I think that's great. They're actually I actually think they're very enjoyable. He gets 12 to 13 million for that, being a spokesman for their DirecTV. Then, for every episode of television he produces, and don't forget that he did Boardwalk Empire and Entourage. So those shows are no longer on the air, but he keeps putting out new shows because, he wants that revenue stream. And he, of course, does not, for the most part, doesn't appear. I think he's been on Entourage a few times, but he doesn't appear on these shows. This is something his team. So when you have a production company, if he has a distribution deal, I'm not sure how it works in TV. Usually the offices are free, but he has to pay the salaries from the earnings of the production company for the people who work for him in development and production and oversee these things, so he can go do his acting and earn the other money. But anyway, right now on the air they have Ballers on. It's interesting that he worked with Dwayne Johnson, very similar to Entourage vibe there. Shooter on USA. I didn't know that was his show. That's amazing. Shooter is a huge hit with Middle America and the conservative fan base. It's given new life to Ryan Phillippe's career, and Mark Wahlberg is behind that. Very savvy of him. And then also the Wahlburgers reality show. So for all of those episodes, so he's got 3 shows on the air right now, and his production company gets $50,000 to $75,000 an episode. Then the Wahlburgers restaurant chain. That company gets $40K for every franchise that's open. That's what you have to pay for your franchise fee. And then they take 6% of annual profits. And then finally, he's getting royalties still from his Marky Mark days. You get that forever. You get that forever if you're in a really big movie. For instance, like the Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, they're still getting money off of that. Seinfeld, Friends, they're still getting money off of that's why when a television show gets to 5 seasons, they throw a little party, because that's how much you need for syndication. You need 5 seasons worth, to play like at 6 or 7 on like a 7 o'clock, like on a secondary channel. Also, Netflix, Friends is huge there. So they're continuing to rake in money, anyone associated with those shows, without doing anything. They just play in syndication. 30 Rock can be in syndication. Goldberg's just went into syndication. Money, money, money. All right, so that's the second story of the day. Now, speaking of diverse portfolios, an unexpected revenue stream for Tom Hanks is David S. Pumpkins. I'm sure you saw the news yesterday that Saturday Night Live has unveiled an animated Halloween special that's already ready to go. It comes out next month, October 28th, a Saturday, during the Saturday Night Live slot at 11:30 p.m. Tom Hanks will also appear live to open the show and then voice David S. Pumpkins. Peter Dinklage does a voice, and of course the SNL cast members who debuted in the original sketch. That's fascinating. So it's ready to go. It's going to go on. And this is also made even more interesting because Bobby Moynihan, one of those SNL members who will do a voice here, he's no longer on the show. But he revealed recently in an interview that Tom Hanks didn't want to do that character and felt it was not going to work and felt it was stupid. And he was really embarrassed up until the last minute. And Chris Hemsworth was hosting the show the next week. And he was like, don't you think Chris Hemsworth would make a great David S. Pumpkins? Let him do it. And they're like, no, it's you. And I think Chris Hemsworth, well, Chris Hemsworth is very funny. I don't think he's a good fit with the character. It had to be Tom Hanks. SNL knew what they were doing, and it worked. So I think that's going to be great. But it's also interesting that the holiday animated special space is no longer just for Charlie Brown and Disney. For instance, they have those Toy Story specials that air. Because this year on CBS, the day before, Friday, October 27th at 8 p.m., mark your DVRs, or get ready to purchase on iTunes. But anyway, CBS will have an animated Michael Jackson special as his estate, feeling that enough time has passed, begins to make moves to capitalize on his legacy. It's going to be tricky. We'll see how this turns out. For instance, this Michael Jackson Halloween animated special ends with a big dance finale with an animated Michael Jackson doing a dance routine. That's going to be tough. I'll be curious to see if that comes off as creepy or awesome. Also, that's to coincide with the release of the first album from the estate, Michael Jackson's Scream, which comes out September 29th, which includes his scariest songs. I don't know what that means. You know, that seems like a little bit of a reach. But interestingly, the album will end with a mashup of several of Michael Jackson's songs. That sounds like potentially an interesting revenue stream, doing, different versions of the songs. Although, is that an appropriate thing to do with Michael Jackson's music? He was such an artist who had such a specific voice and was very involved in shaping his image. Can you really play with his music like that? It's also interesting to see Hollywood do a lot with Halloween, just like they have done with Christmas traditionally. And as you know, Halloween has become a major revenue stream for many businesses, and now Hollywood, of course, is one of them. All right, so those are the three stories of the day, and the viewer question comes from Sloth1231. Oh no, 123, Sloth 123. It says, I took the whole thing and it says, posted 1 minute ago. Okay, so Sloth 123 says, viewer question. Hi Grace, I have a viewer question regarding your opinions on which actors are box office poison, one being Ryan Gosling. I'm interested to know why these actors and actresses are still able to land big movies, once again with Ryan Gosling in the new Blade Runner movie. Why do studios continue to hire them if they have proven to have bad box office payoffs? I'm interested to know why. Thank you. I love your videos. They have taught me so much. And hello all the way from Scotland. Hello. Well, that's a great question. And I think that it's reflected in the fact that Blade Runner 2049 is getting such great reviews out of the gate. And I think that the thing is, if you don't bring in a lot of money, Ryan Gosling, I think, isn't a big box office draw, but it's interesting. I think Michael Fassbender, to some degree, finds himself a little bit in the same boat. They're both very risky. Like, the movie could do well, but it could not do well. And I think the jury's still out on a Blade Runner 2049's box office performance. I'm curious to see how it performs. But anyway, if you don't bring in money, you have to have award credibility. You have to be one of those actors that the media and critics are predisposed to thinking of as important and their work is meaningful, right? Like Ryan Gosling doesn't make quote unquote bad movies. Ryan Gosling doesn't take paycheck gigs. So if Ryan Gosling has deemed a project worthy of his time, it's got to be pretty good, right? I mean, it's a little, it's an image thing. Same thing with like the way we talked about yesterday, Venom is shaping up. Tom Hardy, Michelle Williams, Riz Ahmed. How do you give a movie like that a bad review considering the caliber of that talent, right? So I think critics will always be like, but the acting at least was amazing because of who those actors are. So that's something that Ryan Gosling brings to the table. And as you can see, he has done his job. I think that if you had Harrison Ford with another actor, let's say, let's say Liam Hemsworth, right? Let's take another Hemsworth, or even Chris Hemsworth. If you put Harrison Ford with one of those actors, I think critics would be a little bit more skeptical. It would be a little bit harder to prove to them that this was like a quote-unquote, again, important film. But if you stick Ryan Gosling in there, it's like a Pavlovian response. See Ryan Gosling, think movie is important, or at least I'm heading in that direction. So I think that's a really big part of it. And I think that when you're trying to shape your movie, that's one of the options that you have. You hire high caliber talent. I think, for instance, the first Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire was a really great choice because he had so much credibility in supporting roles, never really had a lead up to that point, but he had been in such quote unquote important films that people were like, well, no matter what we think of the Spider-Man movie when they were going in, obviously everybody liked it when they came out, but they were like, we know that Tobey Maguire will do a good job because he's such a great actor, so that's what you're looking for, and that's why Ryan Gosling is still able to get work. I think that Andrew Garfield has done a very good job redefining himself in a similar manner. It took some work after the Amazing Spider-Man movies, speaking of Spider-Man, but I think that he has, thanks to, I think picking some really good projects, he has, again, redefined himself as an actor. So you're either a box office draw like Mark Wahlberg, you bring in $90 million in a single year, although, again, sometimes he's not. Or you're like someone like Ryan Gosling, because Mark Wahlberg movies are not going to get great reviews, but a Ryan Gosling movie most likely will. And let's see if Blade Runner can have it all. We'll know very soon. All right, so that's today's morning movie news. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please write down below, I think, today's top 3 stories, Sloth123's viewer question, anything you'd like to see covered on Monday, and any questions, of course, that you might have. Thanks for watching.